witness list, so thank you.
Thank you, Judge. At this time, we call Will Lynch to the stand.
Please raise your right hand, place your left hand on the Bible. Do you solemnly swear or affirm the evidence you're about to give the court in this case will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth to help you God?
I do.
Thank you. Please proceed. State your full name and spell your last name.
Will Lynch, Lynch.
And Mr. Lynch, if you don't mind, tell this jury where you're currently employed.
Currently, I'm employed with the City of North Myrtle Beach Department of Public Safety.
And how long have you been with North Myrtle Beach?
I've been employed with North Myrtle Beach for 25 years.
Okay, and what are your current responsibilities?
Currently, I'm assigned to the investigations divisions there at the city.
Okay, and let me ask you this. What were you doing in 2013?
In 2013, I was assigned to a multi-jurisdictional drug task force, the 15th Circuit Drug Enforcement Unit, and I was actually stationed at an office here in Conway.
Okay, and what were your responsibilities when you worked at what's known as the DEU?
So when I was with the DEU, our main responsibility was to focus on mid to upper level narcotics activity, and also I was assigned to do what they called dumping cell phones or cell phone extractions as well.
Okay, and if you don't mind, tell this jury a little bit about the training you've had doing cell phone extractions.
So we use a machine that is designed by a company called Celebrite. The machine is called the Touch or Touch 2. Now it's actually a newer version, Touch 2. They also make a program that you can run on a standalone desktop called UFED 4PC. I was originally trained in this technology back in 2011, and I've since been retrained again or updated my certification last year in June of 2018.
Okay, and if you don't mind, tell them between 2011 when you first were trained in how to do it and 2013 when you got involved in this case, about how many phone extractions, cell phone extractions had you done?
So up until that point, when I became involved in this case, it was probably between 100 and 200 cell phones, probably closer upwards to around 200 cell phones.
Okay, and if you don't mind, tell this jury what a cell phone extraction is.
So a cell phone extraction is basically pulling the information off of a cell phone or really any type of portable media device. It could be an iPad, something of that nature, a GPS unit, and they even do drones now. But it's just basically pulling that information off a cell phone. It's kind of like when you go to the cell phone store to get a new cell phone, they actually have their version of our machine that will transfer your data from your old cell phone to your new cell phone. So it's basically the same process, except the machine that we use is for law enforcement, and it pulls a little more information than your typical one that you may get at the phone store.
Okay, so just so I'm clear, instead of your version, instead of moving the information from one phone to another, it pulls the information and puts it in a report form.
It does. It pulls it from the cell phone onto some type of media device, whether it's a thumb drive or an external hard drive, and then that information is then run in another part of the program, which generates a report, a readable report.
And what information is included in this report?
So there's different types of extractions depending on how much information you're actually trying to get, but long story short, it will pull all the information that you can see off of your cell phone, where it's incoming, outgoing phone calls, your contacts, SMS messages, MMS messages. It can pull device locations, pictures, videos, browser history, what you've looked at on the internet, and it can even pull some deleted information as well.
Now, tell this jury, can you alter that report? Can anybody alter it?
You cannot. The machine is set up just for what they call read-only. It just reads what's on that phone. You can't input anything onto the phone through the use of this machine.
Okay. Now, tell this jury what you did to assist in this investigation.
So I was at home over the Christmas holidays of 2013, and I received a phone call from Maury County Police asking me if I could assist in examining some cell phones in a case that they were currently investigating. I did say yes, I could do that. I don't know if they called me on the 23rd of December or early morning 24th, but on December 24th, I actually went and met with an Maury County officer and retrieved some cell phones from them and began doing extractions on those cell phones.
Okay. I'm going to show you what's been marked first as states 85 and 86. Tell this court what that is.
So 85 appears to be a disc, CD, DVD disc of the report that was put onto this storage media, and then 86, states 86 appears to be the actual report.
Now, that first page, tell this court what that is.
This first page is just the extraction summary of the phone. It basically says who the examiner was, which it has my name on it, a case number that may have been assigned to the actual case, the time the extraction was started, the time that it was finished. It also goes into the identifiers of the cell phone as far as a phone number, any other identifiers that who may actually be the owner of this cell phone.
And tell this court what the phone number is.
So the phone number assigned to this phone was 843-385-3175.
And is there anything else on that summary identifying who the phone belongs to?
There is an Apple ID it says Sidney Moore 76@gmail.com, and there's also a device name that says Sidney's iPhone.
Okay. Your Honor, this time the state wishes to put 85 and 86 into evidence and publish it at the appropriate time.
Any objection?
No, sir, no objection.
Without objection, states 85 and 86 are admitted.
Thank you, Judge. I'm showing you now what's been marked as 87 and 88. Take a look and tell this court what you're looking at.
Okay, so 87 is labeled Sidney's timeline, and it also appears to be a disc with that information, and it does say Sidney's timeline on it. It has my initials, and there's also 88 would be excerpts from Sidney's timeline. And I guess to go a little bit further, the timeline, when you generate a report from a cell phone, it will put all this information in categories. It will put all the incoming, outgoing phone calls, all the incoming, outgoing SMS messages, all the incoming, outgoing MMS messages, photos, videos, etc. The timeline report's actually generated also by the machine, where it puts all that stuff into chronological order, so you're not having to kind of bounce around between each of the individual categories. You can actually go to the timeline and you can see in chronological order what the person that had the cell phone did, whether they called somebody, then they texted somebody, and then they looked up some information on the internet. It just puts it in chronological order.
Now, are those what's been labeled 87 and 88, are those excerpts from the timeline?
Yes, I believe they are excerpts from the timeline.
Okay, and is that information identical to what's on the timeline?
Yes, it is.
Okay. At this time, the state wishes to put 87 and 88 into evidence and publish it to the jury.
Any objection?
No, sir.
Without objection, 87 and 88 are admitted.
Thank you, Judge. Now, while she's getting this ready, Mr. Lynch, I'm going to ask you. There's been a lot of question, and you weren't in here earlier. When did you get here?
I arrived here at the courthouse at 8:30 this morning.
Okay. And have you been here yesterday or the day before?
No, ma'am.
Okay. There was some testimony earlier about the phone records and that they didn't collect the contents of the message. Celebrate allows you to actually collect the contents of the text messages, correct?
That's correct.
Okay, and sometimes when somebody calls and leaves a voicemail, you can listen to the voicemail.
That's correct.
Okay, so it's basically kind of like having the phone right in front of you.
That's correct.
Okay, and the time frame that we've been talking about in here encompasses kind of late October, early November.
Okay.
Were you able to collect the contents of text messages from Mr. Moore's phone during that time frame?
Late October, November, yes.
Okay, and the other time frame we've been talking a lot about is December 17th and 18th of 2013. Were you able to collect what was going on the phone during that time frame?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, now tell this jury, sometimes people delete messages off their phone. Does this report tell us if that message had been deleted or not?
It does. So when you create the report, it puts the information in columns, and one of the columns specifically is a column labeled deleted or DEL, and it will usually put a red X or something to note that this information was deleted off the phone.
Okay, now when you look down the column, just so this crowd will know what they're looking for, were all of them deleted?
No, not everything that was deleted.
Okay, were some of them deleted?
Yes,
So you'd have a couple that weren't, then you'd have one that was, then a couple that wasn't?
correct.
Okay. If you don't mind, I'm going to ask you to step down and go
Okay.
through these messages, because I know some of them read up.
Correct.
And before we get too far along, I want you to tell this jury, we've already talked a lot about some stuff's in Eastern Time, some stuff's in Pacific Time. Tell them what time the report was in.
So back in 2013, when Celebrate would generate a report, they would generate it in what was called UTC time, which stands for Universal Time Coordinated. Some people have maybe heard it as Greenwich Mean Time. It's just basically a time that's recognized around the world. And depending on where you are and what time of the year, you would have to either subtract or add hours to get the time right. So this report's in UTC time. Now, the UTC time, whether you subtract 4 hours or 5 hours, also is going to depend on daylight savings time to standard time. So back in November 13th, or excuse me, back in November 2013, on November 3rd, at 2 o'clock in the morning, we went from daylight savings time to standard time. And the report also, that's when you would have to subtract 4 hours prior to November 3rd, 2 a.m. And then after November 3rd, 2 a.m., you'll have to subtract 5 hours. So it gets a little confusing, but we'll go through it and we'll clarify that for you. So you have to convert this time so you'll understand exactly what the time is.
Okay, if you don't mind, Mr. Lynch, go ahead and start telling us about the messages early November.
Okay. And the way this report was generated, you'll have to start at the bottom and work your way up. If you can kind of see the time gets later as you go up. And being that this was pre-November 3rd, you would be subtracting 4 hours here at this time. So it says 4:30 a.m. on the 2nd of November. It's really going to be 1:30 a.m. here on the East Coast. So it starts off 1:30 a.m. on the 2nd of November. There is a incoming text message or SMS message from this number right here, 1-843-997-8152. And the person that sent this says Sidney.
And Mr. Lynch, it's already been put into evidence that that number belongs to Heather Elvis.
Yes.
Keep you from having to repeat the number.
All right, thank you. So then, once this message comes through to 843-385-3175, the phone responds right after that at 1:46 a.m., and it goes to this number, which is Heather Elvis's number, and they respond, yeah, and then they respond again, what's up? They respond again, and just track, 4 hours, it'll be 1:20. excuse me, I'm about to back up. This is at 12:30, subtract 4 hours. This is 12:30, 12:46, 12:47, and then 1:20 in the morning. So then they say, who the fuck is this? And then they say, again at 1:23, why would you fucking text me at 12:30 and not respond? Which they're talking about this original text right here, 12:30. Why would you fucking text me at 12:30 and not respond? And then later on that day, on the 2nd of November, so you'll subtract 4 hours, it'll actually be 8:37 a.m. What in the world? So Heather's phone responds, what in the world? And then Heather responds again, sorry, my phone was fucking up all night, out, wouldn't let me answer calls, and then it just froze. But you've got some explaining to do. And then Sidney's phone responds right after that, why is that? It responds again, who is this? And then from Heather's phone it says, nobody you need to worry about anymore. And then the message goes back to Heather's phone, you want to call me right now and explain yourself. It would be the wise thing to do. So we're still, with these messages, we're still minus 4 hours. So again, this would be at 9:38 in the morning. And then after that, there's a message. It's an instant message. It says, what? So then there's again, this would be on the 3rd of November at 12:21 a.m. So we'll have to subtract 4 hours. So we're actually going to go back till November 2nd at 9:21 p.m. There's a message from Heather's phone. It says, so when does Sidney get his phone back? And then the responding message about an hour and a half later says, this is him, but we can't talk anymore.
Okay, do these messages continue on between Heather and Sidney's phone?
Yes, they do.
If you don't mind, tell us about those.
Okay.
Now, before we start going through the messages, what does this indicate over here?
So this is the column over here where it would show that the message has been deleted from the cell phone. So anything that has the yes along that message is showing that it was actually deleted from the cell phone. These were not deleted, but there's nothing there.
And Celebrite is sometimes able to collect the deleted information.
It does. It can't collect all of it, but
Right.
Sometimes it collects a pretty good amount of it.
Okay.
Okay, so we'll go back down here to November 3rd. Well, it says 1:57 a.m., but you're going to have to subtract 4 hours, so you go back to November 2nd at 9:57 p.m., and it's a message from Heather's phone. It says, can you just call me for a minute? And then right after that, less than a minute, 30 seconds, it says no. Heather gets a message that says, no, I love family. Heather responds, ha, okay. And then phone from Sidney's phone to Heather's phone says, sorry, I made a mistake. Again, Heather responds, you knew what you were doing, it was no mistake. I understand this can't go on anymore. I just want to know that your wife isn't going to show up at my job. She also goes on by saying, because I lost hours today because they sent me home after she kept calling. And then the message comes to Heather's phone that says, she doesn't care about you, it's fine, she has a boyfriend. Also goes on to say, she was just mad at me for lying. And then the message also comes to Heather's phone that says, wants me to take some tests to make sure I didn't catch anything from you. Heather's phone responds, then why does this have to end if she's got a boyfriend? Stop being such a pushover and letting her control you. And then it responds back to Heather, I can't do it anymore, it's not right. And then Heather responds, yeah, okay. And then again, Sidney's phone responds back to Heather's phone, what did you want to talk about? And message back from Heather's phone says, I think you're a little obsessed with me. Sidney's phone responds, nah, it was a bore.
And then there's another message to Heather's phone that says, if you want to speak to me now, call me. If you want to speak to me, call now. Otherwise, leave me alone forever. And then Heather responds back, really? So that's why you're still childishly texting me from your cheating husband's phone. And then Sidney's phone responds back to Heather, call the number, it's me. And then Heather responds back, you call.
Now, let me ask you something. The messages that were deleted are the ones when Heather says, I think you're a little obsessed with me, and Sidney's phone is saying, look, call me, call me. Are those y'all deleted?
Right.
Okay.
And these have all been deleted.
Okay. And did this conversation continue on?
It did.
Okay.
All right, so this is November 3rd, and at this point in time, we're going to be subtracting 5 hours from here. So this would be at 2:08 in the morning, and then there's a message that's going to Heather's phone that says nah, and then this is on the 4th, correction, this would be November 3rd at 12:05, 11:05, I believe, 11:05 p.m. that says Sidney, and then responds back from Sidney's phone to Heather's phone, what? Sidney's phone responds back to Heather's phone, your skank ass needs to leave me alone. And then it responds again, right after that, to Heather's phone, stop stalking me, you crazy fucking whore. And then we're talking about a day later, a little longer than a day, on the 5th of November at 1 p.m. There's a message from Heather's phone to Sidney's phone, and it's just a period.
Now, let me ask you something. When the message is deleted, if you were to look through the phone, would you see it?
You would not.
You would not see it.
Correct.
Okay, so when the messages were deleted about call me, if you want to talk to me, call me, if you look through the phone, you wouldn't see it.
Yeah, if you manually look through the phone, you wouldn't see it.
Okay, but if the person called, you would just see that they called you.
Correct.
Okay. Now, let me ask you something. Did you look also at what was on the phone closer in time to when she went missing, which would have been the 16th, 17th, and 18th?
Yes, ma'am, I did.
And did you see the content of those messages?
I did.
If you don't mind, tell this jury about those messages.
Okay. So we're down again. We're going to start from the bottom and go to the top. And these are messages again from Sidney's phone number, 385-3175. This would be at 1:40 in the morning on the 16th. And it says, my pussy is so wet for you, Caleb. And then right after that, about 3 minutes, there is a message that says, ha ha, smiley face, well, I'll text you tomorrow night. And then a message from Sidney's phone that says, okay, baby. Another message from Sidney's phone that says, sweet dreams. There's another message right after that from Sidney's phone that says, I will take one last pic, if that's okay. And there's another message from Sidney's phone that's just 5 hearts. And then there's a message 12 seconds after that that says, that's fine. And then there's a message from Sidney's phone that says, heart, I want you so bad. And then right after that, there's another message from Sidney's phone that says, Caleb, with a question mark. And then about 2 hours later, there's another message from Sidney's phone that says, going to sleep. Can you send a pic in the morning so I have it when I wake up, XOXO. And then there's another message from Sidney's phone that says, I am in love, sissy.
And do these messages continue on?
They do.
And these are on what date and time when you converted?
So starting down here at the bottom, these were on December 16th, and you'll have to subtract 5 hours at this point, so it'll be 1:40 in the morning, and they continue on. Here's 1:48, and then there's a little jump here, and this would be 3:33 in the morning, again 3:33 in the morning.
And were they all deleted?
Yes, they were.
Okay, and do these messages continue on into the 17th?
Yes, they do.
If you don't mind, let's see some of those messages.
Okay, so then you'll subtract 5 hours, be 2:04 in the morning. There's a MMS message. MMS is basically a multimedia type message. Is when you send a message, typically that has an attachment like a picture or something like that. So it looks like there is a multimedia message sent from Sidney's phone. It's just blank, which is an indication that it's probably a picture that was sent at that time. There's another SMS message right after that that says, "That boy is fucking hot." And there's an instant message from Sidney's phone. Again, there's nothing there, possibly a picture. Then there's an instant message again, and this would be, still be on the 16th at 11:13 p.m. It says, "Well, that's good, and if you say so." There's another instant message right after that from Sidney's phone. It just says, "I just had someone cheat on me that I thought was my soulmate. You never know who will screw you over in life. I felt totally betrayed, but I said, fuck it. He's a piece of shit, and I'm better off without the liar." And then 30 seconds after that, there's another message from Sidney's phone that says, "You are interesting to me, Caleb." Right after that, another message from his phone, "You can tell me anything." And then there's a message about 12 minutes after that that says, "Sorry, I'm falling asleep." Then there's a message from Sidney's phone that says, "Well, damn." And then there's another message right after that that says, "I'm sorry, long day."
Were all those deleted?
Yes, they were.
And does this conversation continue on to the 17th, which is prior to the 18th when Heather goes
It
missing?
does.
Okay, if you don't mind, tell us what's on the phone then.
So we're starting back down here. This is actually going to be 11:45 p.m. on the 16th. From Sidney's phone, it says, "FYI, I have never needed lube for myself, comma, ever." And then there's a message just a few seconds right after that. It says, "Boxers." Another message right after that, around the same time, "Thank you." Another message right after that from Sidney's phone that says, "Oh, you wear undies, ... And then there's a call that comes in from this number, 585-369-9704. And then there's an instant message right after that from Sidney's phone that says, "Dude, I think your mom just called." Right after that from Sidney's phone, "I gave her a fake name." And then there's a message 8 seconds after that that just says, "What?" with a question mark. And then 4 minutes after that, a message from Sidney's phone that says, "I told her my name was Terry." And then a message shortly after that that just says, "Yes, just now."
Now, let me ask you something. Were those messages deleted?
All the messages were deleted. The incoming phone call was not deleted.
Okay. But everything else was deleted?
Yes.
Okay. And somebody gave somebody else the name Terry. Is
Correct.
that correct?
Yeah.
Okay. And do you know the name of Heather Elvich's dad?
I mean, I do now. It's Terry.
Okay. And do these messages continue on again on to the 17th, the day before she goes missing?
They do.
Tell me about those messages.
Okay. So you have again, we're still on the 16th at 11:49 p.m. From Sidney's phone. Someone just called from New York and asked why I was calling her underage son. And then you have a message right after that that says, "That's weird, IDK, I'm sorry." And then there's a message from Sidney's phone again. It's just 4 question marks. Message again that comes in. It says, "Didn't say anything, but I'm not underage. I'm 18. And then there's another message that says, "I didn't say anything, I mean." And then there's an outgoing message from Sidney's phone that says, "That was weird." There's another message right after that. It says, "I'm sorry." And then the message from Sidney's phone outgoing, is this her number? And then there is another message that goes out from Sidney's phone, more likely a picture. And then the response is, that's my number. And then the number from Sidney's phone, there's a number that just says 585-369. And then the next message says 9704.
Okay. Now, do these messages continue on from the 16th to the 17th?
They do.
Can we hear those messages?
Okay. So again, we're at 11:55 p.m. on the 16th. There's a message that just says yes. And right after that, there's a message from Sidney's phone that says, so does she read your text or have something on your phone where she sees everything you do? And the response is, no, she doesn't. And there's another outgoing message from Sidney's phone that says, well, how did she know we talked last night and why would she care? And again, a message from Sidney's phone says, creepy. Another message from Sidney's phone that says, I don't blame you, but geez, don't need a crazy mom hating on me because I think her son is handsome. And then the response is, don't worry about it. And then again, outgoing, now we're on to the 17th of December now. From Sidney's phone says, you sure? She sounded pissed. And again, another message from Sidney's phone says, and now I missed my pick. The response is, okay, I'm sorry. And then from Sidney's phone, outgoing again is a message, I deactivated my account. Again, from Sidney's phone, shortly right after that, just in case she was digging into it. Again, response from Sidney's phone, not your fault. Another response from Sidney's phone, just delete all of this in case she saw the messages maybe. And then the response right after that says, yeah, I did that too, and ha ha, yeah. And then another response from Sidney's phone, I put my number on FB though, so maybe she saw that. And this was, on the 17th, right after midnight, 12:09 a.m.
And were they deleted?
Yes, they were.
And these are all from his phone?
Yes, these are all from excerpts from Sidney's phone.
Okay, and do these messages continue on?
Yes, they do. So, 12:23 in the morning on the 17th, there's another message from Sidney's phone that says, well, you think she's mad about the age difference? We said that on FB. Again, from Sidney's phone about 3 minutes after that, I feel like she's reading everything we say. And then the response right after that, 9 seconds after that, okay, good B. Another response, same time, do you want to stop talking? And the response from Sidney's phone says, hell no. Another message from Sidney's phone right after that, I want to buy you a ticket to come here so I feel comfortable talking. LOL. Another message from Sidney's phone, I would never flirt with someone underage. Message from Sidney's phone says, I wanted more pics. Now I'm scared to ask. Another message from Sidney's phone right after that. It's no biggie. I told her my name was Terry and it's not me. Message from Sidney's phone again. I wasn't talking to anyone underage, LOL. And then the response to that was, no, you didn't. Looks like a V. And then right after that, from Sidney's phone, there's an outgoing message, you're sleepy again. And then the response is, yeah, sorry.
And were all of those deleted?
Yes, they're all deleted.
Okay. And did this conversation carry on?
It did.
Okay, if you don't mind, now we are into the 17th on these next messages. Is that correct?
Yeah, we're into the PM hours of the 17th.
Okay, so now we're on, what time are we on?
So this is going to be 3:26 p.m. on the 17th.
Okay, so now we're on the afternoon before the victim went missing.
Correct.
Okay, tell me about these messages.
All right. So again, there's a message from Sidney's phone, a glowing message that says, and that's not even Ashley in the picture you sent. Right after that, there's a response that says, Charlie who, question mark. All I know is that a woman is messaging my son and is claiming to be an older woman along with a FB page. I don't want any of you contacting my son and offering plane tickets to come there. I'm just a mother protecting her son. And then there's right after that, a message from Sidney's phone that says, I'm a very strict uncle too. This is my phone. She's home now. From what I see, the boy started the pictures first. And the response is picture to a 40-year-old woman, question mark, question mark, question mark. He's punished as well. I want this to stop. Another message, pictures of him standing in the bathroom with his shirt off. Right after that, again, this is talking about 3:31 p.m. on the 17th. From Sidney's phone, it's done. Ashley has been punished, and I feel sure age won't be text messaging anyone for a very long time. The response is, awesome, thank you. And then the response from Sidney's phone says, no, comma, pictures of him naked, lots of them. And then the response right after that says, no, question mark, cops had 9, if those. And then they put none. And then the response from Sidney's phone says, there was 3. The response that came back was, that's strange. And then Sidney's phone replies, how old is your boy? The response right after that is 16. And the response after that is, that's why I called and said, stop TXT my underage son. The response after that says, I'm thinking it was the older woman in the pic, and the FB page pic was same older woman. And then there was a response from Sidney's phone, her too. And the response from Sidney's phone again was, he told her he was 19.
And they were all deleted?
Yes, they were.
And she's asking Charlie who in the below message?
Right here.
Okay. So maybe somebody gave her the name Charlie, correct?
Maybe, correct.
Okay. Now, if you don't mind, does this conversation continue on?
It does.
Okay, tell me about it.
So again, we're talking about on the 17th at 3:34 p.m. Message that comes in says, hi, well, she said she was in her early 40s. And the response from Sidney's phone says, no, she had her aunt's pics from a long time ago on it. It's closed. And then the response right after that is, who's the woman in the pic? The response from Sidney's phone says, my wife. The response then says, I was worried it was an older woman trying to snatch a young kid. And then right after that message says, okay, done deal. And then the message after that from Sidney's phone says, there was another man too she was talking to. He is definitely not a teenager. And then the response is, we have a friend whose daughter disappeared in Myrtle Beach last year and it started this same way. We're just scared of what can happen. And then the response right after that from Sidney's phone says, the kids did it, stuff happens, she has learned her lesson. And then response right after that, Mines has yet to begin to learn a hard enough lesson, sorry for the trouble. Response from Sidney's phone says, I don't blame him. Right after that, as long as he's her age, I get it. And then the response to that is, well, he can't do this crap. And then the response from Sidney's phone says, I did crazy stuff when I was 16 too. And then the response right after that, 4 seconds after that, yeah, or yeah, but this is too much. Digital age sucks. And then right after that from Sidney's phone, it does. Right after that from Sidney's phone, I'm pissed that she did this while at our house. And then the message response to that was, I'm sorry. Frowny face there. It's hard raising kids. We have 5 kids, boys and girls, and it's not easy. And then from Sidney's phone, response is, I get it. The one thing we will not tolerate is lying.
Were they deleted?
They were.
Now, we only looked at 16th and 17th, correct? Did you see messages even prior to that were a part of this conversation?
I believe there were.
Okay.
Yeah, I believe there were.
And so this was just kind of a small snippet leading up to the time frame of the 18th.
Correct, yes.
But this is actually a continuation, at least the sexual messages.
Yeah, there's quite a few more of those.
Okay, but they're all prior to the 16th.
Yes,
And we just picked them up with the 16th.
correct.
Okay. Now, let me ask you something. Do you see what goes on the phone the early morning hours of December 18th? I'm sorry, yeah, December 18th of 2013.
Yes.
Okay, tell me about that.
So, again, these are outgoing calls. This would be on the 18th at 109, 113, and again at 113. These are calls to this number, area code 862-596-2011. There's 3 of them, pretty close in time there. This would be at 109, 113, 49 seconds, 113, 55 seconds.
Now, we know that there's some phone calls early December 18th around starting at 3:17. Is that on this report?
It is.
Okay, if you don't mind, show us those phone calls.
All right, so this would be an incoming call at 3:17. Doesn't show who it's from. Appears they left a voicemail right after that. Then there's another incoming call at 3:17. After the voicemail is left, it doesn't say who it's from. And then again at 3:38, there is a incoming call from, this would be Heather Elvis's phone, 843-997-8152. Again at 3:39 on the 18th in the morning, there's another incoming call from Heather Elvis's phone. At 3:40, there's another incoming call from Heather Elvis's phone, and at 3:41, there is another incoming call from Heather Elvis's phone.
Okay. When is the next time you see that phone active that early morning hour?
The next time you see it active would be this time. It's around, this would be -5 again. This would be 4:37, 4:38, 4:38.
Now, let me ask you something. Did you also do an extraction of Tammy Moore, his wife?
I did.
Okay. And did you see the messages on her phone?
I did.
Now, let me ask you something. There's no number on that, "Can you please bring me orange juice? Thank you, yes ma'am."
Correct.
Who are those messages to and from?
So these are from Tammy Moore's, or what is assigned as Tammy Moore's cell phone. It's 843-385-3174, because they're on her phone
Okay.
as outgoing messages.
So you see them on her phone as outgoing, and then you see the message.
Correct.
Okay, so who's asking, "Can you please bring me an orange juice with a pot sticker"?
So this would be from Tammy. She's asking, Sidney, can you please bring me an orange juice with the pot stickers? She says, thank you. And then he replies to Tammy, because it's on Tammy's phone as well, yes, ma'am.
So he replied to her, "Yes ma'am."
Correct.
At what time in the morning on December 18th?
So these would be at 4:37, 4:38, and 4:38.
Okay. So now the two phones are talking back and forth.
That's correct.
Okay, now let me ask you something. All those messages we saw before, were those on Tammy's phone?
No.
Okay, so those messages were between Sidney's phone and somebody other than Tammy, his wife?
Correct.
Okay. Now, the 18th is kind of what we've focused on. Did you look at the messages after Heather Elvis went missing to see then what the content of the phone looked like?
I did.
And if you don't mind, show us those messages.
Okay. So we're down here to shortly after midnight. This would be basically 12:07 a.m. on the 21st. This is a message from, this is actually from Tammy's phone. It says, "I know what Kaysen wants from Santa." And then right after that, from Sidney's phone, it says, "Well, it's about time he told somebody." Then a message from Tammy's phone says, "Legos, of course, aliens, he said." And then Sidney replies, "What about Christian?" Then Tammy's says, "No idea. Nikki asked for the Friends boat or high school." all of it was sold out at the store. And Tammy replies, Carrie's back on, let's watch. And then Sidney replies, well, that should be fun then. And then there's a text message that comes in from Sonic right after that. And then there's another message from Sidney's phone that says, don't come today, we'll see you next week. Another message from Sidney's phone that says, good luck. Someone responds, okay. It's 15 seconds after that, the response was okay. And then there's some phone calls, and then there's an incoming phone call here at the very top. All these around the 21st of December.
Okay, I want to look at something. Let me get the E. If you don't mind, can you take us back to the pot stickers comment at 3:40? Okay. The last, or the message this is at 4:37.
Correct.
Can you please bring me an orange juice?
Yes.
And you looked at Tammy's phone.
Correct.
So you know those messages are between him and his wife, correct?
Yes.
And those messages were after her last phone call at 3:41.
Correct.
Okay, so after 3:41, she's telling him, bring me pot stickers, and he's saying, yes, ma'am.
Correct.
Okay. But you also looked at the messages prior to 3:41 on 12/18, didn't you?
Yes.
And you looked at Tammy's phone and his phone.
Correct.
And we looked at several days, to be fair, 16th, 17th, and earlier in the 18th, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Were there any messages between Tammy and Sidney during that time frame?
No, ma'am.
In fact, did you see any messages between the two of them in the entire month of December?
Well, not until we get up here to the 18th, but prior to that, no. There was no messages between them.
Okay. So all of a sudden, there's no messages. Heather's last phone call is at 3:41, and shortly after that, now the two phones are talking.
That's correct.
Okay. Now, we saw some pretty, I don't know what you want to call it, type messages prior to the 18th, sexual in nature, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
And they were mentioning some guy named Caleb, is that right?
That's correct.
And it was talking about send me a pic,
Yes.
and talking kind of sexual stuff?
Yes.
Okay. After the 18th at 3:41, do you see those type of messages anymore?
No, ma'am.
And does it now go back to Sidney and his wife talking about, show me your next messages. Now we back on Legos. Is that right?
That's correct.
So if something happens prior to December 18th at 3:41,
Yes.
and in a very short time after that, the two phones are talking,
Correct.
and they're no longer talking that same talk.
Correct.
Now, are you familiar with the phone records too, to match them up sometimes with the Celebrite to make sure that Celebrite is indeed showing what's accurate on the phone?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So you're familiar with checking, hey, this phone call was made here, let me check the report, check. That's correct?
Correct.
Okay. Have a seat, Mr. Lynch. I got a couple more questions.
Sure. Thank you.
We got the spring records up there, Mandy. I'm sorry. Which one? 375. Okay, right in front of you. It's Baylor Snake. I want to ask you, I want you to look at December 18th and tell me if those phone calls from Heather Elvis at 9978152 at 338, 339, 340, if they are indeed on the defendant's phone records. You need a piece of paper to kind of line it up. Are you good?
Yeah, I think I'm good.
December 18th at 3:38, 3:39 a.m.
Oh, you gave me November.
Okay, sorry.
That's all right.
December, I spoke wrong.
Yes, they are.
Okay. Now, up here, it doesn't tell us who called at 12:18, at what's really 3:17.
It does not show,
Okay, does the records show who called?
and that is at 3:17?
Yes, yes, sir, 3:17, 12:18.
Yes, it does.
Okay, and does it show how long that conversation, first of all, who was the phone call from?
Well, it looks like, there was a phone call between Heather Elvis and Sidney Moore.
Okay,
Objection, Your Honor.
Yes. What's the basis?
Mr. Lynch can't say who the phone calls were from.
Rephrase it. We know to talk about the phone.
There's a phone call from Heather Elvis's phone and Sidney Moore's phone.
okay. And how long is the connection between the two phones?
So there's one at 3:07, it's like 261 seconds.
So how many minutes is that?
It's a little over 4 minutes.
Okay, so this phone call here at 3:17, he's talking on the phone for 4 minutes.
Correct.
Okay. Now tell me about 3:38, 3:39, 3:40, 3:41.
3:38, 3:39, 3:40, 3:41. It's looks like 3 second, 2 second, 3 second, 3 second.
And were those routed to voicemail? Does it indicate that it was routed to voicemail?
It says routed call, so yes.
Okay. So then these calls were all routed to voicemail.
Correct.
Okay. And then it doesn't show on the phone records because it's an instant message, but then he's texting on the phone again at 4:37, responding back to, "Can you please bring me pot stickers?" Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So the only time he doesn't have the handset in his hand talking or texting is between the time of 3:17 and 4:37. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay, because here he's talking on the phone for 4 minutes.
Correct, a little over 4 minutes.
Here, am I correct by saying he's responding with a text message at 4:38?
Yes,
Okay. And these all went to voicemail.
yes,
But before and after this time frame, he's actively on the phone.
yes.
So at 3:41, when Miss Moore is at the landing, he's not on the phone.
No,
But he's on the phone before and he's on the phone after.
correct.
No further questions, Judge.
Cross-examine, Mr. Chairman.
You want me to pull this back, Jane?
Yes, please.
Okay.
Detective Lynch, when were you contacted to get involved with this case?
It would have been either December 23rd or December 24th. I don't actually remember. I know I obviously examined the phones on the 24th, but I don't remember exactly when the conversation was that said, hey, could you help us out?
And you said at the time you were working for the North Myrtle Beach Police Department, but you had been tasked to the Drug Enforcement Unit.
That's correct.
So was the North Myrtle Beach Police Department brought in on this investigation?
Not that I'm aware of.
Right. Okay. Was the Drug Enforcement Unit brought in on the investigation?
Not that I'm aware of.
Okay. So you were just like individually called because of your skills with Silver?
That's correct. It was my understanding, to be honest with you, it didn't sound like anybody else wanted to come in on Christmas Eve, so I kind of I volunteered.
Okay. Other than the Cellbrite records, did you have any other involvement in this case?
No, sir.
You did not search for physical evidence?
No, sir.
Did you search Miss Elvis's house?
No, sir.
Did you search Miss Elvis's car?
No, sir.
Did you search Mr. Moore's truck?
I did not.
Did you go to Peachtree Boat Landing?
I did not.
You didn't collect any type of DNA?
No, sir.
You didn't collect any hair fibers?
No.
Blood, saliva?
No, sir.
No fingerprints?
No fingerprints. That's correct.
So your job was to download these devices?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now, which devices did you download?
It would have been Tammy's iPhone and Sidney's iPhone, or what were labeled as Tammy's iPhone and what was labeled as Sidney's iPhone.
Okay. Did you do an extraction on Heather Elvis's phone?
No, sir.
Okay. Did you do an extraction on Stephen Schiraldi's phone?
I did not.
Did you do an extraction on Jeremy Fleming's phone?
No, sir.
Did you do an extraction on a phone belonging to a gentleman named Jerry Stevens?
No, sir.
Did you do extractions on any other devices?
No.
All these iPads and iPods, you didn't extract any of these?
No, sir.
There's some other telephones here too. Randomly, this is item States Exhibit number 48, which appears to be some type of iPod.
Okay.
Did you do any type of extraction or download on that device?
No, no.
I hand you what's been marked as States Exhibit number 45. Can you tell us what that is?
Appears to be an iPhone.
Okay, did you do an extraction on this phone?
I mean, I would have to turn it on to see what the phone number is associated with this phone to say for sure.
Yes, sir. Well, the bottom line is you were given a very specific task, which was to look at Mr. Moore's phone and Miss Moore's phone, correct?
Yes, sir.
And all of these other electronic devices here, you had nothing to do with those?
Not initially, no, that's correct.
Now let's talk about the process of extraction. How is that done?
So the Celebrite is designed to, for the most part, identify what phone it's going to be doing the extraction. Basically, at this point in time, only a couple of USB cables that are used for cell phones. I mean, you've got your iOS devices, which use one cable, then most of your Androids use a different cable. Depending on which of those phones you're going to use, you're going to choose the appropriate cable. You're going to attach it to one side of the Celebrite, which would be your, I guess, the target, and then you're going to have the other side of the Celebrite, you're going to attach your storage media, whether it's going to be a USB drive or external hard drive of some sort.
In this case, a phone.
Correct. So and the Celebrite is very user-friendly. It will walk you through the process and tell you what you need to do to start the extraction process, as far as changing the screen timeout. If you're going to take an Android phone and you're going to put it into, enable developer options, different things like that. It's very user-friendly.
So with Celebrite, you can go through and select certain things that you want downloaded.
In certain downloads, for instance, a logical download, it gives you the options of what you want to download as far as, do you want to download everything you can see on the phone, or do you just want to download, say, text messages? I mean, for instance, if someone has a cell phone that has 5,000 pictures on it, it's going to take a long time to download 5,000 pictures if you're only interested in the text messages. So you can choose, I just want the text messages and I don't want that. Now that's only on certain types of downloads. There's other downloads that you're going to get everything whether you want it or not.
So what type of extraction was done on Sidney Moore's phone?
This was what they call an advanced logical, which is a little bit of what you see is what you get. When I say what you see is what you get is if you look through the phone, what you see is what you're going to get, as well as some of the file systems or some of the deleted information.
So now the types of different extractions that are available, I think you said there's a thing called a logical extraction.
Yes, sir.
And now you said what was done in Sidney Moore's phone was an advanced logical extraction.
Correct.
Is there also such a thing as a file system extraction?
There's a file system and a physical extraction.
And a physical extraction.
Yes, sir.
So there are 4 different ways you can get information off of Mr. Moore's phone.
Basically, I mean, you could go as far as looking at it,
Yeah, looking at it is number 5.
Sure,
So there are 5 different ways to get information off of it.
sure. And if a phone has a SIM card, you can get information off the SIM card. There's several different ways to do it.
So for these different types of extractions available, who chose to go with the advanced logical extraction?
I did.
All right. And you could have chose to do a physical extraction.
I don't recall 100%, but I'm not sure if a physical extraction was available for that model of iPhone back then. Again, I could be mistaken, but the advanced logical iPhone for an iOS device is usually a quicker type of download, so to speak.
So you did a quick download.
I didn't say it's a quick download, it's a quicker download.
Okay. When you download a phone, do you get more information from a physical extraction or from an advanced logical extraction?
Typically a physical. If the phone is supported for physical extraction, you will get more information.
And if the phone's not supported for physical extraction, do you get more information from an advanced logical extraction or for a file system extraction?
Well, if you read what Celebrite has to say about that, Celebrite says that an advanced logical is a combination between file system and a logical. So in my opinion, they're saying an advanced logical, you're probably going to get more information.
It's like a logical plus a little extra.
Plus the file system, yes.
Well, what is the difference between the file system extraction and the logical extraction?
Logical extraction is going to basically, like I said, it's going to be what you see is what you get. If you go through the phone manually, that's what you're going to get. The file system can go a little deeper. It can go into hidden files. Let's say, for instance, you have an application on your phone that allows you to take a picture. Normally, if you take a picture with your phone, it goes right to the the camera roll, so to speak. Sometimes if you take a picture through another application, it may go to a different file that's not the camera roll.
So basically, these extractions come in 3 different sizes, small, medium, and large, which would be logical, file system, and physical, correct? And in this case, you selected to do the logical extraction on Sidney Moore's phone.
The advanced logical, yes.
Okay, so you gave us small plus, somewhere between logical and file system.
File system may or may not give you deleted information. Logical's not going to give you deleted information. Advanced logical has a tendency to give you deleted information. So that's why I went with the advanced logical over the logical or the file system.
So in terms of small, medium, and large, you gave us somewhere between a small and a medium.
I would say more like a medium, and it may be large because, again, I'm not sure if the phone that he had at the time was supported for a physical extraction.
Now, Cellbrite has different versions of Cellbrite software, correct? I mean, they're upgrading every year.
They do, yes.
When did you download the information from Mr. Moore's phone?
On December 24th of 2013.
Okay. From 2013 to now, have you had an opportunity to perhaps use a more advanced version of Cellbrite on Mr. Moore's phone?
I took some of the dumps that were done from another party and actually recreated some reports. I didn't actually have the phones in my hand like I did the first time, so I don't know how to answer that question. I've never had those phones physically in my hand again to do a different extraction. So I basically took someone else's extraction and just created reports from it. So
you took your extraction in 2013, and then you took a report of someone else's extraction at a later date.
correct.
Now, for Tammy Moore's phone, what type of extraction was done on hers?
It would have been the same.
Would it also be fair to say that you took your extraction from her phone in 2013, and then you had a report of a subsequent extraction on her phone that you also used to make your presentation today?
No, none of that from, all of this presentation today was from 2013.
Okay.
So there's nothing past my original extraction that I've talked about today.
Now, is Cellbrite the only software that can extract information from cell phones?
It is not.
It's the one that your agency had available.
It is, and it seems to be more recognized worldwide than really any other software.
So there are other types of extractions that can be done on Mr. Moore's phone.
There are, yes. There are other companies out there, yes.
Right, other softwares.
Yes, that's
and,
correct.
And various types of extractions within the Cellbrite software.
Correct.
Okay. And so what you selected, like you said, was
The
an
advanced logical.
advanced logical extraction.
Yes, sir.
Now, the extraction that you did gave us call data and text data. Is that correct?
Did.
Okay. Did it provide us any information about internet access?
Without looking at the report, I can't be 100% sure if it does show internet activity or browser activity.
Okay. If you had done the physical extraction on Mr. Moore's phone, would you be able to see internet activity?
It does, if the physical is available, it states that it should get internet activity or browser activity as well.
Okay, but
Searched items, things like that.
it wasn't done in this case.
Correct. There was not a physical done in this case.
I think you said the advanced logical extraction is the one that can pull back deleted messages, right?
It can, yes.
Okay. Now, there are a lot of deleted messages on Mr. Moore's phone.
Yes, sir.
Can you tell us who deleted them?
I cannot.
Cannot. You can simply tell us that it were deleted.
That's correct.
Now, if you have the actual phone itself and you delete a message, and let's say your wife finds your phone, if she looks at it, goes through your device, can she find those deleted messages?
No, sir.
No. Now, if you have that same device and you've deleted some messages, and say the police look at it, can they go through and find those deleted messages?
With the use of the Celebrite, yes, possibly. As far as going through it, like you said, just visually looking through it, no.
Right. Now, the PowerPoint presentation that you gave us, you went through December 16th, 17th, all these sexual calls. Could you tell us who Mr. Moore's phone was in communication with?
All I know that it's a out-of-state number, and there's reference to someone by the name of Caleb.
Let me say it like this. Was Mr. Moore's phone in communication with Miss Elvis's phone?
During those
messages that
I was reading off?
that you detailed, yes.
No.
So they didn't have anything to do with Heather Elvis.
There was not any reference to Heather Elvis in those messages. No, that's correct.
All right. Now, regarding text, there were some text between Mr. Moore's phone and Miss Elvis's phone that you detailed. And I think, let's go back to November 2nd. The text was, so when does Sidney get his phone back?
Correct.
Right. And on November 5th, there was a text, and wait, the text from November 2nd was from Miss Elvis's phone?
Correct.
Okay, to Mr. Moore's phone.
Yes.
All right. Now, on November 5th, there's a text from Miss Elvis's phone to Mr. Moore's phone. That's a period. A
Correct.
single dot.
That's correct.
Okay, like dot, dot, dot kind of thing.
Correct.
Okay. After that text on November the 5th, are there any texts between Heather Elvis's phone and Sidney Moore's phone
Any texts?
after November the 5th?
Not that I recall, or not that Celebrite reported.
Okay. Now, when you look at these text messages, do they come with location data?
They do not.
All right. So there was some mention of a message about bring some pot stickers.
Correct.
Can you tell this jury where Miss Tammy Moore's phone was when that message was sent?
I cannot.
Can you tell this jury where Sidney Moore's phone was when that message was received?
I cannot.
Based on your testimony, can you say if Sidney Moore was at Peachtree Boat Landing
No.
at any time?
Not based on my testimony, no.
Thank you, sir. No further questions.
Really right.
Thank you, Anna. Now we're getting close to lunch. Mr. Lynch, after dumping close to over 100 phones, did you use the extraction you thought would yield the most information?
I did.
Okay. And whether you use physical, logical, advanced logical, whatever extraction you use, the messages are what the messages are, correct?
That's correct.
So even if we used another extraction, we're going to see those same messages.
That's correct.
Okay, we may yield some locations or some images, but the messages are what they are.
That's correct.
Okay, and Mr. Galmore asked you about Peachtree Landing. Do you know whether or not Sidney went to Peachtree Landing?
I don't know that.
Okay, so he could have and you don't know?
Could have, sure.
And he may not have, correct?
Correct.
Objection, Your Honor. Argument.
Allow for
Yes, sir.
Now, the time I asked you earlier when he was asking you about did he go to Peachtree Landing, I asked you earlier about 3:41 a.m. when the victim was at Peachtree Landing. Was there anything on the device that indicated that that phone was in Sidney's hand at that time?
No.
How about before that time? Were there phone calls and
Yes.
texts before that time,
Yes.
before 3:41?
Yes.
Okay, now how about after that time? Was there text messages after that time?
Well, after 4 o'clock, yes.
Okay, so the only time he ain't texting or talking is around 3:41 when the victim's at the landing, correct?
Correct.
No further questions, Your Honor.
Recross.
Very briefly, you were able to download the messages that were sent and received by Mr. Moore's phone, correct?
Correct.
Did any of the messages refer to pregnancy?
No, sir.
Thank you, no further questions.
All right. Mr. Lynch, you may step down. You wish this witness to be excused.
Yes, please, Your Honor.
Any objections? Yeah.
No, sir.
You are also free to leave.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, ladies and gentlemen, lunch has reached that hour. I ask you to please be back in your jury room by 1:45. Do not begin your deliberations and don't discuss the case. Thank you. Oh, before you go, ladies and gentlemen, it is apparent that this case may carry over into next week. And I need for you, now presiding jury, to discuss with the jury. You'll have a better idea, obviously, tomorrow, but it appears there may be some more to the case that will follow. We're finished next week, I'll assure everybody of that. But from the standpoint that I have worked on Saturdays and I've not worked on Saturdays. I have let the jury make a determination whether they prefer to work on Saturday. Now, I can't promise you that we would be finished and still not have to come back on Monday. But I want y'all to talk among yourselves. If one juror says they don't want to work on Saturday, that's fine. We'll come back on Monday. But y'all make the decision how you wish to proceed. If you'll talk about that during the lunch, it just let us know what the jury's decision is. I'd appreciate it. Thank you very much. You may retire and have a good lunch.
Yes, sir, Your Honor.
Anything further from the defense?
No, sir.
Thank you. See you at 1:45.
Yes, sir.